If you're someone who thinks a V8 is powerful and a V12 is the top of car engineering, let me tell you something. You're thinking too small. Today, we're going into a place where common sense and being humble were thrown out the window. A place where more is clearly more. Today, we're showing you 16 of the best 16-cylinder cars. It's a number that sounds crazy, almost funny. 16 pistons going up and down in a song of power and too much machinery. It's the kind of engineering that only happens when a designer asks their boss, "What if?" And the boss, in a moment of amazing craziness, says, "Why not?" These aren't cars for going to the store for bread. They are moving monuments to human dreams, machine beasts that go against what's normal. Let's start at the beginning, in a time when America wasn't just dreaming big, but building big. In 1930, right in the middle of the Great Depression, when most folks were counting pennies, Cadillac decided what the world really needed was a car with more cylinders than a steam train. And so the V16 was born. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement, a mechanical middle finger aimed at hard times. It was the peak of luxury, a palace on wheels designed for presidents, Hollywood stars, and probably gangsters with great taste. The heart of this beast was a 7.4-liter engine, a work of engineering art that was as smooth as silk and as quiet as a well-trained butler. It wasn't about raw speed, though it wasn't slow, but about showing off power without effort. Let's jump ahead about 70 years now, to a time when luxury wasn't about being quiet, but about loud noises and crazy fast speeds. If the Cadillac was like a butler, the Bugatti Veyron was like a rock star with a jetpack. When the Volkswagen Group decided to bring the Bugatti brand back, they didn't just want to make a fast car. They wanted to break the rules of physics and change what everyone thought was possible. The result was the Veyron, a car that didn't have just an engine, but a power plant. A W16 8-liter engine with 4 turbochargers. 4! The numbers were, and still are, mind-blowing. Over 1,000 horsepower. A top speed of over 400 kilometers per hour. To keep this thing cool, it needed 10 radiators. 10! My house has fewer. At top speed, its engine sucked in air as fast as a human being does in 4 days, and it emptied its 100-liter fuel tank in just 12 minutes. What do you do after you've built the fastest, most advanced car in the world? If you're Bugatti, you go back to the drawing board and ask yourself, can we make it even more ridiculous? The answer, of course, was yes. And the result was the Chiron. They took that already absurd 8-liter W16 engine and completely redesigned it. Bigger turbos, stronger insides, a new carbon fiber intake system. The result was a jump of almost 500 horsepower, bringing the total to an astonishing 1,500 horsepower in its standard version. It's a crazy amount of power that you just can't understand. It's enough to change the spin of a small planet. The Chiron doesn't just speed up, it simply changes its place in space and time. 0 to 60 miles per hour is a violent blink, and from there, it keeps pushing with a force that squashes you into the leather seat. But just like the car before it, the Chiron's magic isn't just in its out-of-this-world speed, but in how it can be two things at once. It's a hypercar that can go over 260 miles per hour, but it's also a super comfy and fancy grand tourer. The inside is a work of art, a mix of carbon fiber, leather, and shiny aluminum that makes you feel like you're flying a luxury yacht at the speed of sound. Now, let's travel to a time of excess, the late 80s and early 90s. A time of shoulder pads, techno music, and Italian supercars, with designs so sharp that, well, you could cut a steak with them. In the middle of all this craziness, a group of former Lamborghini engineers led by Claudio Zampoli and with financial backing from composer Giorgio Moroder, yes, the disco music pioneer, decided that the Lamborghini Diablo wasn't extreme enough. Their solution? The Cizeta-Moroder V16T. This car was the definition of over the top. The design by the legendary Marcello Gandini was essentially his original vision for the Diablo, but wider, lower, and of course more aggressive. And then there was the engine. They weren't content with a V12. No, that was for beginners. They created a true 6-liter V16 engine. But here's the weird part. The T in the name doesn't mean turbo. It means transverse. They mounted this monstrous V16 in the middle of the car, but sideways, like it was taking a nap. The result was a car with 4 pop-up headlights. 4. A width that made a Hummer look narrow and a sound that, honestly, could wake the dead. Unfortunately, reality bit hard. The car was incredibly expensive, complex, and arrived just as the supercar market was crashing. In 2003, Cadillac decided to remind the world that, Before they started making luxury SUVs for rappers, they actually invented the idea of over-the-top cars. To do this, they created one of the most amazing and moving concept cars ever, the Cadillac 16. This wasn't just a car, it was a rolling tribute to their amazing past, especially to the famous V16 engines from the 1930s. And they didn't hold back. Under that hood, which was as long as an airport runway, sat a 13.6-liter V16 engine. 13.6. This engine was an amazing piece of modern engineering, a naturally powered beast that made a round and absolutely crazy 1,000 horsepower and 1,356 newton-meters of torque. But, just like its older relatives, it wasn't just about raw power. The 16 had on-demand cylinder technology, which meant it could run on just 4 or 8 cylinders when you didn't need all the power to save gas. The design was pure drama, a long, low, and sleek shape that screamed power and luxury. It had 24-inch wheels, an inside covered in the best leather and wood, and a Bulgari clock on the dashboard. It was the kind of car you'd imagine a James Bond villain would drive if he had won. Sadly, the 16 never made it past being a concept car. We all know BMW for its super smooth inline-6 engines and its powerful V8S and V12S. But did you know that secretly, deep within their engineering workshops in the 1980s, they were cooking up something much bigger? It was called Project Goldfisch, or Goldfisch, and it was an experiment to see how far they could push their flagship, the 7 Series. The answer was a 6.7-liter V16 engine, essentially made by stretching their superb M70 V12 engine. This secret engine made over 400 horsepower, a huge number for a luxury sedan in the late 1980s. They put it in an E32 Generation 7 series, but they immediately ran into a problem. The engine was so long that there was no room for the cooling system in the front. The German engineer's solution? It wasn't to make the engine smaller. Of course not. It was to put the entire radiator system in the trunk, with huge and, well, pretty ugly fiberglass air scoops on the rear fenders to feed them. In the end, Project Goldfisch was cancelled. BMW executives, probably after seeing the gills in the trunk, decided it was too complex, too expensive, and frankly, too silly for mass production. While Cadillac was getting all the attention with its V16 in 1930, another American company, Marmon, was quietly working on its own 16-cylinder masterpiece. And when they finally showed it off in 1931, many people argued that it was in fact the better of the two. The Marmon's engine was a true gem. Unlike the Cadillac, which used a more complicated overhead valve design, the Marmon's was an 8-liter V16 built almost entirely from aluminum, which was revolutionary for its time. And while Cadillac was shy about its numbers, Marmon proudly announced its 200 horsepower, making it the most powerful passenger car engine in the world at that time. The design, created by Walter Dorwin Teague Jr., was sleek and graceful, possibly more modern and put together than many of Cadillac's custom designs. It was an incredibly beautiful and fast car, easily able to go over 100 miles per hour, but it arrived at the worst possible time. The Great Depression was in full swing, and very few people could afford such an expensive car. Marmon, a much smaller company than General Motors, couldn't survive the tough times. Let's leave luxury behind and enter the brutal world of 1930s Grand Prix racing, a time ruled by the German silver arrows from Mercedes-Benz and Auto Union. These weren't just cars, they were propaganda weapons, paid for by the Nazi government to show off how great German technology was. And the most extreme of them all was the Auto Union, especially the 1936 Type C. It was designed by the brilliant Ferdinand Porsche, yes, that Porsche, and it was a scary machine. Unlike its rivals, the Auto Union had its engine behind the driver, which was a very new idea for that time. And what an engine it was. It was a supercharged 6-liter V16, just imagine that. You're sitting in a thin metal frame with a fuel tank right in front of you, and a monster 520 horsepower 16-cylinder engine roaring right behind your head. The tires were as wide as bicycle tires, and the brakes were barely there. Driving one of these took a kind of bravery that was almost crazy. The Type C was incredibly fast, able to go over 340 kilometers per hour on the straight parts of high-speed tracks like Avis. Legendary drivers like Bernd Rosemeyer tamed this beast, winning amazing races and becoming national heroes. The Auto Union Type CV16 wasn't just a race car, it was a legend, a symbol of a time of wild new ideas in technology and extreme danger in car racing. Rolls-Royce, the name most linked to fancy cars, built its good name on being quiet, super smooth, and having awesome V12 engines. But in 2004, to celebrate being 100 years old, they decided to do something a little different. They made the 100EX, a 4-seat convertible concept car that was, in one word, amazing. It was like a yacht for the road, a Rolls-Royce that broke free from old rules, with a shiny aluminum hood and a wood inside that looked like it came from a fancy boat. But the biggest surprise was under that huge hood. Instead of their usual V12, Rolls-Royce made a special 9-liter V16 engine. 9 liters. Rolls-Royce, like the old Cadillacs, didn't even bother to say how much power or torque it had. The idea wasn't about going super fast, but about having so much power, so much endless power, that the car would just glide forward super smoothly, no matter how fast it was going or how steep the hill was. Even though everyone was excited about it, the V16 never got made for sale. But the design of the 100X directly helped create the popular Phantom drophead coupe. The V16 engine, though, is still like a ghost in the machine, a cool experiment that showed even Rolls-Royce sometimes likes to dream big and over the top. And so, we come to the end of our list with a car that looks like it's straight out of a video game or the wild imagination of an oil sheik with endless money. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Devel 16. This hypercar from Dubai doesn't just flirt with being over the top, it marries it, goes on a honeymoon with it, and has kids with it. The promise that comes with it is so unbelievable, it's hard to trust. A V16 engine and 5,000 horsepower. No, that's not a typo. 5,000 horsepower. The engine is, supposedly, a custom-made 12.3-liter V16 unit with 4 huge 81mm turbochargers. It's basically 2 racing LS V8 engines bolted together. The theoretical top speed they claim is over 560 kilometers per hour. These numbers don't belong in the car world, they belong in aviation. The car's design looks like a jet fighter with 2 exhausts that look like the nozzles of an F-15. Now, the million-dollar question, is it real? The project has been in the works for years, with many doubters wondering if it will ever become a working production car that a human can drive without falling apart. And there you have it, 16 magnificent machines, from the quiet elegance of the golden age to the sonic madness of the modern era. We've seen how the 16-cylinder engine has been used for everything, to show off unreachable luxury, to rule the world's most dangerous racetracks, and to chase crazy speed numbers. It's an engine that makes no practical sense. It's heavy, it's complicated, it's expensive, and it drinks gas like there's no tomorrow. And yet, I can't help but love it. It shows the best of the human spirit. The need to push limits to build something not because it's needed, but simply because it's possible. So, now the question is for you. After this trip into mechanical excess, which of these 16-cylinder cars surprised you the most? Was it the fancy Cadillac, the wild auto union, or the crazy promise of the Devel 16? Leave it in the comments, I'd love to read what you think. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into car craziness, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome car content. Until next time, keep your foot on the gas.